Bring the Monday, September 18th, 2023 Township Committee meeting to order. Please rise for the flag salute. Art.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building, by faxing notice of this meeting to the Press of Atlantic City and Star Ledger on January the 6th, 2023, and by publication in the Press of Atlantic City and Star Ledger on January 9th, 2023. Mr. Cheek?
Here.
Mrs. Link?
Wait a minute. Here.
Anchor?
Here.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Here.
Mayor Patali?
Here. Moment of silence for private reflection. Thank you. Guest presentation. William Reynolds, Atlantic County Prosecutor.
Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate it. I'll go to the microphone and hand out some paraphernalia and literature, we like to say, in the law business.
Thank you.
So this is
Thank you.
our community outreach. Our community outreach piece. So we created, not to go down a rabbit hole, but we created a outreach unit. And what we're doing is we're actually going to each of the municipalities and going to the council meetings. And really, one of the reasons why we're doing it is to let people know what our office does, what services we can provide to your town. So, as a formal matter, my name is William Reynolds. I was nominated by Governor Murphy last June, June 6th. June 6th, I started 2022. Been in the office about 16 months. We are here, Chief Sambrone, myself, and Chief Snyder, who's going to join me. He's on his way over. We've forged an incredible relationship on, a personal level, a professional level, from a perspective of how can we better serve the community. So one of the things that we decided collectively as the county prosecutor's office is we really need to go out and let people know, number one, what we do. Number two, how we can be of service to the community. And number three, if there's any questions, we believe in radical transparency. So as a matter of background, for Hamilton Township purposes, Mayor, we were together at the leadership graduation here. We believe in that boots on the ground outreach. So I actually owned a business in Hamilton Township for a long period of time. It was right down the street, Cheech to Go. I was a sponsor for all the youth sports. Did project graduation at Oakcrest. I was integrally involved in the community. I actually coached Brigantine street hockey, but we played in all the tournaments out here in Mays Landing, and have a long-standing relationship with a lot of the volunteers in Mays Landing and Hamilton Township. Born and raised over in Brigantine, went to Holy Spirit, and raised my kids in Absecon, and my boys are actually in 8th grade at St. Augustine right now, just started. One of the things that I think is very important from a perspective of being the county prosecutor, no one really tells you what the actual job is, right? It's, yeah, you're in charge. You're the chief law enforcement officer. What I've realized is it comes down to a lot more. Our office is the face of law enforcement, and we're an extension of every police department. And our role as the chief law enforcement agency is to really support each of the police departments. One of the things that I wanted to say to you, this particular governing body and town, is that we really appreciate the support that you're giving for your officers, especially in the light of recent happenings and what occurred. And without going down a rabbit hole and talking about that, I know that this township does support its police officers. One of the things that we have done collectively with all of the chiefs of police at our meetings and then private meetings in our office as well is how can we support you in your mission to make each of the communities cleaner and safer, right? So we have a lot of meetings on a weekly and monthly basis to give support. I can tell you the type of leader you have in Chief Sambrone. We've had some real difficult conversations on how to handle certain things, and I can tell you he's operating with the utmost integrity, and you guys have a great leader leading your police department. It's been a pleasure to deal with him. He actually said to me at one point, he goes, hey, because I'm a coach, right? So I coached my kids all the time growing up, and when I went to the very first chiefs of police meeting, I said to all the chiefs hey, like 2 years ago, I got forced into coaching a lacrosse team. I never played lacrosse, I had no idea, but I YouTubed it. And I studied it, and I talked to other coaches, and we were 12-0 at one point. I know nothing about lacrosse. I can barely catch a lacrosse ball, but I know how to impact, especially children, but now doing at the county level, we have 180 employees, and part of my job is to empower those employees to better serve the municipalities and serve our citizens. And that's not lost upon me, the gravity of the position that I have and the role that our office has. So the community outreach literature that I handed out has a QR code on it, and what I'm asking each of the municipalities is please share that information with your groups, your schools, your not-for-profits, your sports organizations, anywhere where we can educate the public. We firmly believe that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. We are doing amazing things. We have some really talented and dedicated professionals in our office that can educate the public on such issues as like elder fraud. So we were involved in a case involving the feds over in Brigantine, and an elderly gentleman had $5 million taken from him, right? Because he's sitting in his house by himself, and they're contacting him through cell phones and through emails, and in a short period of time, they emptied his life savings, right? And that's because he's vulnerable. He's by himself. He's living in a home by himself. Family members not necessarily around, and the people that are committing those frauds and those scams are targeting our elderly, and they're targeting our children. So one of the things that we have done is we've developed outreach events, which can be requested right through our website, which is that QR code that's on the front of the flyer, and any organization can request this. You can actually schedule on a calendar, and we will come out and make a presentation to any organization or town that requests it. One of the other things that we've really highlighted is the ability to educate our youth. I know I have twin 14-year-old boys. One of them believes that he's going to be a YouTube creator and he's going to make millions of dollars on it. So when those children have access to electronics and people can contact them, they actually may believe by spending $70 that they can access through an electronic gift card or what have you, that they're actually giving that person information to then infiltrate into the parents' information as well. So I've educated my children because I've learned a lot about it in the 16 months I've been in the job. But one of the things that is crystal clear is that age group from 12 to 17 and those retirees over 65 are the two age groups that are being targeted. Chief Snyder from our office talks about our ICAC unit. So one of the things that we've stood up since we've been in the office is a Internet Crimes Against Children unit. It's one of our busiest units. Pre-COVID, Chief Snyder advised there was 5-6 cases a month coming in for certain towns. Now there's 50 cases a month coming in, right? That is people that are preying on children and transmitting child pornography to other people, and those cases are coming in through a state police referral source, right? So COVID has changed the world, sometimes, not for the better. And one of the things that's happened is with everybody being home and having access to the internet and computers and bank accounts and phishing emails, there is a plethora of things that we collectively can educate our public on. But those two specific groups of people, the young teens and the elderly, are targets. One of the things that I think we could do is be present in their lives, right? And I think that's one of the most important things, messages that I have from being in a position of leadership is these are some real blind spots that are going on in today's society post-COVID that we really have to focus on. Some of the other things that we do, which I think are very significant, and I did a few events at Oakcrest. We do drunk and distracted driving and opioid awareness, and we did multiple events with the administration of Oakcrest, and they were great. The Greater Egg Harbor Regional School District has been great to deal with. We did Absegami, Oakcrest, and Cedar Creek, And I can tell you, having the buy-in of your superintendent, which Chief Snyder and I met with, is very significant, and your superintendent is engaged and is completely bought into using our resources at our office to better educate your students as well. One of the things I want to hit on before I turn it over to Chief Snyder is, you know, we grew up here. We're both Brigantine guys, both went to Holy Spirit. We're raising our kids here. This is personal, right? Like having our community safe and clean. I want my boys to raise their families here. Pat has 2 girls. He wants his daughters to raise their families here. This is personal, and when bad things happen in this county, we are on the phone 24/7. I personally go out to fatal accident scenes and homicides myself. Pat spent his whole career in major crimes before taking over as the chief January 1. This is something that we feel blessed to have this opportunity to serve our communities. And as Dr. Witherspoon knows, I appeared on her show with her. You know, we're raising our kids here. This is something that if we can move the needle to help all of you, to serve your community, we will be here. I think Chief Sambrone will attest to it. We have an incredible relationship. We are responsive. There is no dumb question, right? If we have to do anything to help all of you protect and serve your communities, we're going to do it. And one of the things that I can tell you, 100% certainty, we're going to pick up the phone and we will be there. Chief Sambrone has been over our office many times. In fact, we did a National Day of Prayer. The chaplain from Hamilton Township came, Carol Pickett-Young, with the chief, and we took about 25 minutes out of our day to say a prayer and pray for those that are less fortunate than us and those who are serving the front line. And little things like that go a long way because we're building relationships every day, and it's one of the reasons why we wanted to come and make the presentation to let you know that we are here for you. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Snyder. He's going to speak about the relationship and interactivity between departments in our office.
How you doing? I'm Pat Snyder. So I'm the Chief of Detectives. I was appointed in January to that position. Prior to that, I was a major crimes detective. So I worked homicide for approximately 12 years. And I also ran the SWAT team for Atlantic County. So we like to say that we were the 911 for the 911. So if you had a significant issue, I was the one that you were calling, at least for the local police department. I just wanted to cover 2 quick things. One of which, thank you for your support, for supporting the Hamilton Township Police Department. It makes our job at our prosecutor's office extremely easy. I don't ever have any issues. I don't have to call over here to find out why something's going wrong. And I can tell you, I don't have that relationship with a lot of the other agencies. So thank you for your support, for supporting your police department. And, I appreciate it. I know that people of our office appreciate it. The prosecutor appreciates it as well. The second thing I wanted to talk about is, like, what does that look like being a law enforcement executive in 2023? And just to put it in perspective, the AG, right, the Attorney General's office publishes directives. They're often unfunded. You will do X. With that being said, in about 2020, I think it was average was 5 a year. In the last 3 years, we have had over 42. So that means 42 directives of you will do X, Y, and Z, and it's often unfunded. So that means that your police force that's already stretched thin is getting stretched further out, and it often falls on the shoulders of your executives. So just be mindful of that. When they do come to the budget table, we don't ever weigh in on that stuff, but I can tell you we're doing the same thing where we're at, and I appreciate the support and the interoperability that we share with Hamilton Township is outstanding. I hope it continues, and if there's anything that our office can do to help further your mission and objectives here of maintaining a safe community, please just let us know. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to just say a few words in wrapping up. One of the things that Chief Snyder said I think is significant, especially for lay people who don't have any interaction with the prosecutor's office, who would never have any interaction with the Superior Court. We handle the most serious crimes, homicides, fatal accidents, aggravated sex assaults, anything that occurs in any county facility like the jail, like that comes back to us. You are uniquely situated because those facilities are in your township, and that is a strain and a burden on you and your police department, and we're cognizant of that, and we definitely say all the time, and I give Chief Snyder a lot of credit, please be sure to include Hamilton Township because you're our home, right? Our office is here, the county jail is here, and that's something that only you can say, and I think that's something that needs to be taken in consideration. So when you do sit down with the county, I think that's conversations that you can have with them too, is that is a burden upon your municipality. In closing, I have to tell you, we've been to 2 other municipalities. Each municipality is uniquely different. I know Hamilton Township has, $1 million homes on the water, low-income housing. There is a plethora of different things going on in this township. It is a very difficult place to be a police officer in 2023, just like a lot of other towns. It is a challenge every day for law enforcement with the way the world has changed, especially post-COVID. Everybody's walking around with a cell phone. Everyone's wearing a body-worn camera. There is a lot of advantages to that, and there's also some disadvantages. But the truth is we're living in a different world. It's very difficult to hire and retain law enforcement. It is a challenge, and that's one of the things that Chief Snyder and I talk about with all the chiefs of police, is that we're living through different times, and I really feel Atlantic County is being so supportive of law enforcement. It's one of the reasons why Chief Snyder and I wanted to go out to all the towns, is to say how much we appreciate it, because Atlantic County truly is different than a lot of other places in this country and a lot of other places in the state. So we wanted to come out and say thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, addition, deletion of late agenda items to be considered for action tonight. Addition 7A1, renewal by Anderson, 5 canvassing permits. Deletions 3B, request for escrow agreement extension, fresh cut cannabis.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. Early public comment on agenda items, excluding items listed for public hearing.
We have Jim Link for item 3A.
Good evening, Township Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to address you about this particular item. And it's nothing new, but I don't really like kicking a dead horse, but this is of such gravity that I think, yeah, I've got to say something. And forgive me if it doesn't sound real pleasant, but this is not a pleasant situation as far as I'm concerned. As far as open, honest, and transparent government, okay, I believe that this process should not be continued. I suggest that voting for this particular amendment is just kicking a problem down the road, which is going to come to surface again as it had, last year or the year before, okay? The ordinance as written doesn't need just tweaking. When an ordinance allows any one person or any group of people to jump on it and to become, how should I say, corrupt by that ordinance must be revamped totally. This ordinance allowed an individual to try to take advantage of its provisions so that that ordinance might be favorable to him personally. Luckily, the members of the township, they rose up against it and voted him out. And that's great because that's what this republic is all about. However, I would suggest, and again, this is not easy for me to say, and it's not a pretty thing, but for the sake of open, honest, and transparent government, I believe that the subcommittee who is reviewing and tweaking, this problematic ordinance should not be headed by the individual who brought it to light in 2018. This ordinance is his baby, and as such, that person is blinded by the fact that he has to defend it. Okay? So I would suggest that going forward, anything to do with this amendment or anything to do with cannabis, because it's so tied into it, that Mr. Schenker should recuse himself or actually step down and give his position to someone less interested. That is to say, that doesn't have the fingerprints all over it. It's nothing personal, okay? It's just a matter of what I feel is good government, start from scratch with this thing, do it all over again, vote against this, spit and bubblegum kind of thing, because it's not good government. Again, in my opinion. Thank you.
That's it.
That's it? Okay. Moving on, discussions, formal action may be taken. Ordinance amending Ordinance 1963-2021 as amended by Ordinance 1989-2002 and 2023-2022, and to establish redevelopment project review process. So,
Mayor, I'd like to recuse myself.
okay. So, this proposed ordinance will make the following changes to the redevelopment plan for rehabilitation in Hamilton Township, codifies both the redevelopment process and cannabis redevelopment process flowcharts that were adopted by committee earlier this year, reduces the total number of potential cannabis licenses from 81 down to 14, and changes the distance separation of cannabis facilities from schools, parks, churches, etc., from 1,000-foot building to building to 1,000-foot property line to property line. This last change includes text that exempts existing endorsements in the industrial park from the new distance standard. So this is a discussion item. If anybody would like to make a comment, discuss,
I have a comment, Mayor.
absolutely.
I like the fact that the subcommittee chose to amend this ordinance and reduce the number of licenses down to 14. I think that was a great move, but I'm just a little, I'm not going to say confused, because I'm not confused. While we are having exclusions to properties with cannabis endorsements, I think that if we're going to make the amendment, then everybody needs to follow the same rule. So please explain to me or someone how this would disqualify someone who might be on this track. I didn't get it. I was trying to, how could we decide to grandfather something that we're amending? I didn't understand that quite.
The way I looked at it was, we're pulling the rug out from underneath somebody here, and we can stop this at any time that we want. And this is why we're having this discussion also. If, if you believe that you would like to see that changed, then that's, something to discuss. Although I just feel as though,
You say
It's
pull the
just-
rug out. What do you mean? I don't see. That's the part. Maybe there's some
they
information
followed,
that I'm missing.
they followed the existing ordinance,
Right,
and then we're gonna go and change the ordinance.
right.
And I feel moving forward, it's the right thing to do. But I'm one person.
I'd say the people or the groups that have had endorsements before this was amended was Block 991, Lot 23.01, and Block 994, Lots 35, 36, 37, 39, and 41. Now, I think Thelma's question is, why should they be exempt from an amendment to this whole ordinance? Can we have some,
I gave you my reasoning.
can you tell us?
Yeah, very briefly, they've, when they were endorsed, the standards that we have in place now were there, which bottom line is the 1,000-foot building-to-building measurement versus the property line to property line. These entities, for the most part, have invested a significant amount of time and money moving through the process of being ready to get their Pinelands approval, being ready to file with the planning board, things of that nature. They've done the work that we asked them to do when we granted that endorsement. I know from back this afternoon, I had a phone conversation with somebody from the Cannabis Regulatory Agency. One of the properties that they're going to be recommending for a license in October, that's for the Canna Grove property. In fact, they were asking, is the township still supporting this? At this late date, to turn around and say, sorry, you don't cut through. I think it's first off, it's bad form on our part to basically lead them on this long, and I would defer to our counsel as far as whether or not we could be subject to litigation on this.
Can we?
I think we have to take those on a case-by-case basis, but my general opinion sitting right here is perhaps, yeah. And if there's a specific contract or operation you're concerned about, I can look into that before the next meeting.
All right, here's another question. Do the ones that are listed on this map here, which most of our people can't see, do they really fall in conformity with the new statement of property to property instead of building to building?
One of them does. The others do not fall into the new standard.
Okay.
But it's, they're not all, it's different items. One may be too close to the ACIT property. The others may be close to the Wellspring Church. The only thing I can tell you is none of them are within 1,000 feet of the Hess School property. So,
yeah, I'm really not in favor of the pot being licensed in an area where it's close to all these educational facilities. But if we go back and renege on what has already been endorsed, that would lead us to a problem. So I would say that you have to be truthful, or we've already endorsed them on the, based on the 2022 ordinance. And so in order to, avoid any further, litigation, that it should stand, and that, if any other reason for them not to pursue besides this ordinance, then, if they don't fall in line with all the recommendations of our cannabis redevelopment process, then, that would be one thing. But to exclude them because they don't, they don't conform to a new ordinance, I think would lead us to much litigation.
One thing, I know, since we did limit it to specific properties, and I could say that with regards to those, I could work with our redevelopment council to see if maybe tweaking that a little bit to say, some language that as long as it's the endorsements in existence at this time, so that if for some reason one of them pulls out and doesn't go through, whoever, going forward, that property would now be off limits.
Okay,
So
someone
basically,
has,
it's the existing endorsees at these locations. It's not like anybody else could step in.
It's not transferable.
It's not transferable. Thank you.
And I want to clarify, I'm not offering an opinion tonight on whether or not the township would have liability. I'm just saying that I do believe they might be subjected to lawsuits as a result of that.
Yeah, that was my question, because I wanted to know if we made this exception, could other people who have the same situation, could they say, well, why come you didn't grandfather me? Will there be any, or is this the only, are there other cannabis people in this section, in that part?
If the change were to be prospective, I think we'd be in a much better position. But again, I'd like to do some research on this if you have questions about any specific parcel.
And I do like the fact that if someone did pull out,
Yeah.
that there should be something inside of the ordinance that another person couldn't come in
Yeah.
and try to get the same benefit that we gave to someone else.
We can refine that a little bit.
Okay.
Getting back to your first question, I'm sorry, Mike.
Mayor Council, Michael Maley, law firm Maley Givens, we're redevelopment counsel to the township. And I just wanted to step in just on one point. My understanding is that you guys are kind of grandfathering in entities that have already received letters of support, local support from the township. So if that's the case, then your ordinance would only apply to those entities that haven't received those letters. So it wouldn't be property specific, it wouldn't be transferable. It would only apply to those who've already received letters of support for their applications to the CRC. So you really wouldn't be in danger of allowing it to kind of run afoul of additional cannabis businesses being able to take advantage of the grandfathering.
So we wouldn't be in no litigation, is what you're saying?
For cannabis entities who make applications moving forward after you adopt the ordinance, you would be in pretty good shape. If you were to change the ordinance today and make it applicable to those who already have letters of support, then yeah, you're likely to face some sort of litigation from someone if you're changing the rules on them at this point.
So you're saying somebody who hasn't even applied yet could say, I want what they got.
Well, I mean, your ordinance exists today as it does in the books. So if somebody comes in and makes an application tomorrow, then they're following the ordinance as it exists. But once you make a change to the ordinance and adopt it, then whatever those new rules are will apply prospectively for any applications that come in.
Understood. Okay.
I understand that, but is there anything that we can put in this ordinance in the event that someone pulls out?
I think what Mike was saying is that the language pretty much, again, it might be just, adding a existing endorsements in effect as of today. Make it clear. It's like, if this endorsement goes away for whatever reason, nobody else can step into their shoes. Again,
No transferable.
non-transferable, right.
Yeah, and if that entity were to back out and then do another application to either the same location or a different property, then we'll make sure there's language that says once they rescind that, stop that process, they can't then pick up from the old ordinance. It wouldn't be entity specific. It would just apply to whoever has a letter of support. Once that letter of support goes away or the project dies, then there's no, they're not subject to being grandfathered in anymore.
I have another question. Other than in the industrial park, are there any applications that have come in that have received a MOU or a escrow excluded by this ordinance? In other words, in any other area?
The short answer is no. Nobody else is affected.
Just in the
Yeah.
industrial?
That's the only place where we have any effect or any impact. I know we have one that's actually getting ready, has submitted their license application to us, getting ready to open out on the Black Horse Pike. That's probably one of the few other licenses we have out there, or endorsements we have out there.
Is that the one near Folsom?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And this exclusion does not exempt them from the Township of Hamilton's cannabis redevelopment process. They're just being exempt from.
Yeah, they're by the
They fall.
probably if they're ready to open, basically.
They're ready to
They've got all their approvals. Yeah.
Right.
This would not affect them.
No, okay.
Mr. Malley? Yes. So with all this being said, as we go through our process, Township Committee can say no to anybody at any time. Is that correct?
You do not have to grant a letter of local support.
Even after we grant a letter of local support?
Could you rescind it?
Could we, have you seen our chart here?
Your flow chart, yes.
So at all those points where we maybe don't see something we like, we can say no.
You'd have to take official action to withdraw a letter of support. The CRC, you have a couple layers a couple levels in which you can provide input. The letter of local support is kind of like your first step.
Right.
Application for conversion license will go to the CRC. They'll seek municipal input from that, for which you can provide additional input. You can pull it back by resolution rescinding it. You may face litigation from an applicant if, based on the reasoning.
This being inside of redevelopment agreement, though, isn't it a process, let's say they come back with a development plan or a plan of what they want to do and we don't like it?
It's subject to having your redevelopment plan is what they'll move forward with on the basis of their zoning. That will also require them to have a redevelopment agreement
Right.
before they get to your
Which all
planning
comes
board.
through Township Committee approval.
Right. And it also requires site plan approval from your land use board. So if you're unable to come to an agreement based on that kind of stuff, then yes, it could die at that point.
Okay.
Just one more question, and I'm done. In our new plan, or in the cannabis redevelopment process, how are, I'm gonna say vendors, that's what I'm gonna call them, how are they meeting with the public? There's something in there that they have to engage with the public. How is that working? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think your flow chart has like a public information
presentation.
session. I would probably defer to your administrator to coordinate, a town hall or some similar meeting in which they would be able to present to the public their plan and, different measures. But Mr. Administrator, I'll defer to you on the.
We met with an applicant today regarding that question, and he asked the same thing. So a couple of the things that we told them was interacting with our police athletic league, participating in local events. What else? Donating towards the Hamilton Township Green Team, things like that.
In addition to outreach to schools, and I'm sure as they get into the process, they'd be more than willing to meet with other community groups also.
But this is something that they would have to do on an annual basis.
Okay, who would follow through with that to make sure
Community
that was
development,
Yeah.
our community development director.
happening? Thank you.
And that's actually, I think it's part of the licensing process is, have you fulfilled this obligation. And if they don't, that's, when they come back on the license, that's a bad mark.
Thank you.
Now, when does this contribution begin? When they're totally endorsed, ready to go?
Once they receive their license.
Yeah, I mean, they should be, starting their outreach now, and but be it, a contribution of time.
Once they get their license, the clock starts ticking to next year for renewal, and they should start right away.
They should start right away in their
As soon as they
outreach.
get their license, they should start on the process of renewing their license. Should be a
How
proactive.
do we know what their outreach is?
They put that in their, well, first off, in their proposal that they submit, they indicate, give examples of the types of outreach they're going to do. Secondly, in the process, again, licensing process itself, there's going to be, the document that we get, they're going to explain what their outreach is. So we have multiple layers of documentation that can be followed up on.
And it isn't like pie in the sky. They have said they are going to donate so much to the green
Sure.
team, and
Again, we'll have to see what they put into the current people put into their
application.
proposal. But I know just in going back through some of the others, it varied from, people saying we're going to work with groups such as this, and community outreach groups. One of them, I believe, specifically gave a commitment that, while their employees are on the clock, they'll allow them to go do road cleanups for a different organization, or, to put in so many hours of community time on the clock in addition to whatever volunteer time they do. So each one will have its own agenda, yes.
Any other questions or comments?
I'd just like to say, I wasn't here when this cannabis ordinance came to life. And as far as I'm concerned, this was just a swing at getting it under control. 82 licenses was ridiculous, and the fact that it was left that way is even more ridiculous. We're down to 14. It could have been a few lower than that, but we committed to the state to carry all 6 licenses. A couple of those licenses I don't agree with, but what is done is done. I can't do away with certain things that are in this ordinance because it was handed over to the state, and we can't change that till 2026. That doesn't mean in 2026 we can't come back and make some more changes to this that are things that are controlled. Am I using the wrong word, Phil? It's not really controlled by the state, but what we sent into the state back in 2021.
Right. Whatever.
What we committed to.
What
we
you
committed to.
what you
Thank
said
you.
you would permit or would allow, you have to continue to
So
allow.
the things that we have brought forward tonight are things that I believe, and the rest of the committee believes, the redevelopment committee believes, are going to be impactful, are going to be things that maybe not put the horse back in the barn, but at least get them closer to the barn, where we can get this under control. When I looked at this ordinance, when I got on Township Committee and studied it, it looked to me like we were in a rush. It was like the California gold rush. And we got blinded by the income that the town would receive. I'm not against the town receiving income. I've done a few budgets in my time up here. But you really have to take into consideration what that income is worth to the town. How does it affect the town? How does it change the town? I'll be the first one to say I'm not thrilled about how many of these are in the industrial park. But as you've heard tonight, there's not a lot we can do about it. We're going to let them run through their processes. We have, I believe, one that'll probably not be there. They've been accepted someplace else, so they are probably going to pull out. And I think this is a time where we need to slow down and take a good hard look at this. But like I said, we have already committed to the state. We have an ordinance that's in place, and we can only change what we can change. And that's what's happening tonight.
Do you want to enumerate the different classes and how many of each of the classes can, licenses can be issued?
Sure, go ahead.
Class 1 cannabis cultivator license, 4 licenses. Class 2 cannabis manufacturer license, 3. Class 3 cannabis wholesaler license, 1. Class 4 cannabis distributor license, 1. Class 5 cannabis retailer license, 4. And Class 6 cannabis delivery license, 1. I have a question about the cannabis building, or the building that was built for medical marijuana on 4322. They have not yet gotten their approval from the Department of Transportation, because initially they wanted to distribute only medical marijuana. Then, in the midst of that, they chose and wanted to be a retailer. And now, is that one of the 4 licenses?
No.
No?
No, because in order for them to move to the commercial or recreational aspect of it, they actually submitted a proposal to amend the redevelopment plan that was site-specific to them, only because their original approval was site-specific. No action was ever taken by this body on that aspect of it. This is strictly the number of licenses allowed under ordinance number 1963, as you've already, as has been amended 2 or 3 times. So just the original, or the recreational license is separate from the Columbia Care property.
But that's you mean under redevelopment, whether they seek their cannabis license under the normal, application through the planning board and...
Again, they can't. No, they can't. First off, they're not in a zoning district where we allow it.
Okay.
They're in I believe they're in a growth area intensive, a residential zoning district. Again, when they got their medical use, that was through amendment of the township-wide redevelopment plan to allow that medical use on that site.
That was through redevelopment?
Through redevelopment, yes. When they did submit a request to the township, or a proposal to amend that amendment to the plan to include the recreational component. No action was ever taken, so they're not included in this 4 that we have there.
All right, now, what is the liability of the township in regards to that building that was built and now they have not been able to move forward? Is there anything that we're liable for? They put that building there.
And
it was, were they putting the horse before the cart, or what happened?
They started their construction and then they tried to make the change. At this point, if it's not a completed structure, I think construction codes require that they have the property secured, so that in an attempt to try to keep people out of it and keep it from being a nuisance. And you could have code enforcement go out to confirm, conditions of the property. Other than that, and if necessary, get after them to try to maintain it better.
But it just sits there. If they were able to secure the land next to it, like Joe's Farmer's Market or Sincotti, the land that's next, could that change that whole complexion of that development?
It's my understanding that that point of access, having a second point of access to the site that's probably in a safer location is what's been holding up the property. So if they could acquire access at that location, it would at least allow them to complete for their medical use. Again, if they want to do something else, it will be up to the five of you to go through that ordinance and decide or not entertain the ordinance, whichever is your pleasure.
This is purely speculation.
It's all speculation, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Because I've been asked that many times, and what's happening to that building, and so on and so forth. It's definitely in limbo. Okay.
Any, we want to do anything with this ordinance, or you hear no motion?
I would like
so
to
we-
see it move on. I think it's a good first step to reducing the amount of available licenses. The 1,000-foot thing makes it more difficult to have these things grouped together like that. I'm not saying that this is the end of the road. This is just the things that we can affect right now. There's more that can come later, but not in the near future. It's going to be 3 years from now. But these are the things that we saw, and we thought that this is a good start.
So, Mr. Mayor, that would be a motion to put it on for introduction at the next meeting on the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Do we need a roll call vote on that?
Let's do a roll call.
Yes.
Let's do a roll call
Just
vote.
for fun.
All right. Mr. Cheek? Oh, sorry, Mr. Cheek's recused. Mrs. Link?
No.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
3 yes, 1 no. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Moving on. Okay. We have no public hearing adoption of ordinances. So we move to 5, introduction of ordinances, public hearing to be held October 2nd, 2023. An ordinance amending Baden ordinance number 2016-2022, adopted November 14th, 2022, reappropriating a portion of the total amount specified therein for an additional capital improvement without increasing the aggregate amount previously appropriated under Baden ordinance number 2016-2022. This would be for various improvements to township facilities in the amount of $135,000. Do I hear a motion?
You said various? Okay, we can't do the motion first. I'm sorry. So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Okay.
I have a question. Brett, what was our CDBG money this year? What was the amount?
We have $650,000 this year. The ACIA has indicated that we will receive another $90,000 by the end of the year.
Okay.
We plan on putting those funds together and using them for a big project at Underhill Park, do fencing, backstops, walkways, and redo the bathrooms on the lower field side.
So this is just putting a bunch of money back to something else.
This is reappropriating the
Reappropriating.
money to facility improvements. We can use the money at Underhill, we can use it at Leapy Track for the
Okay,
project out there.
okay.
We can use it for more than one thing, but it specifically says Underhill Park.
No, the new ordinance is just going to say various improvement for township facilities. So we could use it, we plan on using it for Underhill and Leapy, but we left it generalized.
Okay, thank you.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Chi?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes,
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
Yes, and carried.
Award of bid contracts change orders. 6A, resolution to award bid 2023-11 snow plowing to SKG Lawn and Landscaping LLC, Mays Landing, and Warner's Construction Incorporated, Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey, for a not-to-exceed amount of $50,000 for the period October 1st, 2023 through April 30th, 2024.
can you explain why the two are listed? I know they gave bids. Are you saying that between the two of them, it can't go over 50,000?
Correct.
Okay. Very good.
Is there a motion? Oh. I have a motion.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Chi?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
Oh, yes, and carried.
6B, authorize shared service agreement with Atlantic County Improvement Authority for the administration of property registrations services. Brett, you want to give a little?
Yeah, so our former vendor that we used through ACIA went bankrupt, and the ACIA did an RFQ, and the company called Hera was the successful responder. Basically, they maintain a property registry for bankrupt properties and properties that are within foreclosure. This is an effort to gain up-to-date contact information for these properties, so our offices can perform code enforcement and property maintenance if the properties become blighted. Basically, the way the contract works is we pay a portion to this new company called Hera. We collect a portion of it, and the balance over the $200 would go to the ACIA for hosting the project. This is something that is available to all the municipalities in the county.
I hear a motion.
I'd like to move the resolution.
Second?
I have a motion and a second.
Question.
Go.
I just have a question. I had asked, was this contract reviewed by our attorney?
Yes, it was.
It was.
That's it.
That's it. You know what, let's do a roll call vote.
Mr. Chi?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
Oh, yes, and carried.
Moving on, consent agenda.
That was the addition.
Yes, we added 7A1 renewal by Anderson. Do I hear a motion moving any, all, some?
I would like to pull C for questions afterwards.
So you're making a motion for A, B, D, E, and F.
Yes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. C,
See, my only question is that it's the Mays Landing Athletic Association, and the drawing is at 6 p.m. in December on the Black Horse Pike. Are there going to be kids there?
All premise. Isn't it all-
I have no idea.
Chief would have to sign off.
You,
Rita?
They had called and were inquiring about pulling the ticket online, which is permitted. So I'm not familiar with this address. If that's, it is permitted to pull it online. 6935 Black Horse Pike. Anybody familiar with that?
Yeah, but it's December at 6 o'clock. Naturally, it's dark.
Well, if people are watching on their computer at home.
Yeah, it's just right, for us, what we see is that it's going to be a merchandise draw raffle. You always just think.
Usually you
Yeah.
see it at an event.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is helpful. I just Googled the property. It looks like it's Dirk's Used Auto Parts.
Yeah.
I'm looking- If
And
that's
that-
current, I don't know.
And the woman who is taking care of this raffle, who's running it, is Mrs. Dirk. So I'm assuming that it's going to
Okay.
be online.
All right, so it's at a facility.
I don't know
not
that it's
just
on the
pike.
street, Mr.
Yeah,
Deputy Mayor,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. They know that they would have to allow somebody there if they wanted to be there. But
All right, I have no problem with that.
You make the motion to
I'll
move it?
motion move it.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. Personnel. Resolution appointing Brett Knoll as Township Administrator effective October 1st, 2023 at $142,500 annually. Do I hear a motion?
I'm making the motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Brett, I think you're doing a great job. Keep it up. You've come a long way in a short period of time, so
thank you.
just keep doing what you do. I'm a yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yeah, I'm saying yes, but I just wanted to know why was it just for 1 year?
No, it's permanent.
Well, that's
1
what
year.
we had it
It's
initially
1 year.
approved.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The contract is 1 year.
It's yearly, the
I mean,
contract.
most of the times when you do a job, you don't do it for like, I guess y'all do it once a year. I know. I was just wondering why it was just for 1 year. Instead of multiple years.
I think that's how it was discussed back in March.
I believe it was.
Okay, no problem. Yes.
And probably next year you want to give a bump as far as his annual salary.
Right. 'Cause I think when we had other
Things are
township
going, I don't know.
administrators, we didn't do it once a year. I think
Yeah,
we had a contract for several years.
correct.
Am I right?
Then they get too complacent.
Or did they get
They
too
go on,
complacent?
they go on autopilot. That's
Okay.
what keeps me on my toes.
All right, no problem. Yes, my answer is yes.
Mayor Patali?
Brett, doing a good job. Thank you. And I vote yes.
All yes and carried.
Approvals, minutes, regular meeting minutes of September 5th, 2023.
So move.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Ayes have it. Bills, bill list total $2,300,227.00.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
And carried.
Reports. Mr. Administrator.
Well, I'd like to thank the committee and the taxpayers for their nod of approval for me for the position. We've gotten a lot accomplished over the last 9 months, and we have a lot more to do. It's been a long 9 months. We were handed I don't know if the word's a big mess, but we were handed a big mess, and we're sorting through it. One of these things it's on the agenda tonight, this cannabis redevelopment process. Since I've been here, I've just seen it get more and more difficult for developers to get through it, and I think that's what we need to do, just keep making it more and more difficult, keep more and more eyes on it. All we can do is work with what we inherited and make it better. So we're going to keep doing that. But again, thank you. At the last meeting, I was asked to look into what the township has spent on the redevelopment attorney over the past couple years. And since 2018, I looked back in our records. It looks like the township, the taxpayers, have spent $228,000 on redevelopment / cannabis matters. Developers, escrows, developers have spent $116,000 for redevelopment council, for a total of $345,000. I just wanted to break that out because at the last meeting it was mentioned what the taxpayers have spent on redevelopment, and I thought it was important to break it out. And one other thing to report on was the community development director's position. We have finalized that job description, and we plan on advertising this week. So that'll be out in the press and Indeed, the website. So keep an eye out.
Very good.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Solicitor.
I have no report this evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Engineer.
Very short, but quick. I'd like to congratulate Brett. He's been doing a great job, and we've been working well together, getting some projects, completed and worked on. And I believe we still have more to come, so that's good. Quickly, 3 roads have been completed: New York Avenue, Atlantic Avenue Phase 2, and Atlantic Avenue Phase 3 have all been completed. They came out very well. Haven't heard any complaints as of yet, so that's good.
Speeding.
Speeding.
Something I did not do, so that's good.
You made it too smooth.
Yeah, too smooth. Arawak did do a good job. Harding's Lakes will be starting next week with some concrete work, and some of the notices went out. I believe they're going out this week, and then they'll continue and probably have the asphalt started within 2 weeks. So we should have everything completed with the roads before the end of October. We did have a pre-con meeting with Leapy Fields contractors. The concession stand contractor is getting submittals ready. Building permits are going to be submitted for review by our building department. And the parking lot contractor will be starting to mobilize sometime in October. So there will be a change in parking location when they're out there playing. We are going to have fencing put up so they know where to park and where not to park. So we are going to have the contractor for the Leapy concession stand using a small existing access road along the rear of the project that goes out to Drosera, so that he shouldn't be interfering with anybody out there. And that is all the updates at this point. If there's any questions?
No questions. Okay. Oh, committee members. Dr. Witherspoon.
Yes. I want to say that the 9/11 ceremony was excellent. It was very moving. Standing room only. Due to the rain, it had to be moved on the inside. But I thought it was well put together. And they would say, don't clap until the very end, but the choir and the music was so great, you couldn't help but clap. when they were finished. So I thought that was a wonderful ceremony, a nice memorial, something that we should never forget. And it was well done in Hamilton Township, and I was proud to see the way it was done with excellence in Hamilton Township. On 9/14, September the 14th, I attended the Atlantic County League of Municipalities dinner meeting at Claridge Hotel, and retired Judge Nelson Johnson, retired New Jersey Superior Court Judge Nelson Johnson was the guest speaker. He spoke good. He wrote a new book. The 2023 edition of the New Jersey Open Public Records and Meetings, and combining print and online access. It's a very, very good book. It has different things about the Oprah and all of this. So I think it's a book that everyone should have on committee, or especially Township. So I'll make sure that you get the information for this. It was very, very good. It was a very, very good meeting. Of course, I represented Hamilton Township, and I was proud to do that. Okay, so, and Saturday I went to Art in the Park. That was very nice, well organized, well put together. I enjoyed it. I was trying to make Bark in the Park, but I just couldn't do it all. I couldn't do it all. I couldn't make Bark in the Park, but I made Art in the Park. And it was a very, very nice event. I like the events that we have. There's a lot of things going on the Western End that people really just don't know about. And we do a lot out here. We really do. And we do it well. We do it well. Very organized, very, I just enjoyed that. Waiting for the next event that we're going to have at the Memorial Park. So that's my report.
Very good. Mrs. Link.
I would like to take this opportunity to clarify the record regarding my position about a resolution introduced by Mayor Patali at our last committee meeting on September 4th. Let me state for the record that, and as any rational member of the community, I am opposed to the relocation of any number of people into the Township of Hamilton or surrounding municipalities, as any rational person would be. I may have said 50,000 persons, but the number is immaterial for anyone trying to make a point of this trifling mistake. They've missed the point entirely. I abstained from voting for this resolution because, in my opinion, it was ill-advised, whose wording was totally inflammatory and was a knee-jerk reaction to a report initiated by the Bloomberg Press, a report that was unsubstantiated by any other source of reliable information, whose only goal was to instigate fear and provoke irrational reaction. The discussion about this proposed relocation centered on the possibility of putting all those people in the Atlantic City airport. Simply preposterous. Anybody in their right mind would see that solution would be physically impossible for a multitude of reasons. In fact, just a day later, an article published by the Press of Atlantic City cited the Bloomberg report, suggested that 60,000 people were supposed to be dispersed to a number of different sites throughout the entire state. A day or two later, the governor of the New Jersey stated that the whole idea wasn't going to happen. And after I reached out to Senator Cory Booker's office, I was assured that the federal property around FAA Technical Center was eliminated from consideration due to lack of transportation, provisions, sanitation, and all the infrastructure needed to sustain such an undergoing. And since all of that commotion, there have been no further developments, not a peep. I could go on. I maintain that it would be more responsible for governing body of the largest municipality in the state to adopt resolutions based on reliable information substantiated by one or more source. What Township Committee demonstrated was a lack of judgment and a display of poor governing. Let's stay focused on the pressing issues that confront this township and how we may make Hamilton a better place to live. Thank you.
Mr. Shanker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to echo the words of Committeewoman Witherspoon. Art in the Park was wonderful. The Historical Society of Hamilton Township did a great job, and, you know, of course, the weather was great, so that made it even better. The 9/11 ceremony, which is always more enjoyable when it's outside, was very nice. They did a great job, and at last minute brought it inside. All that were involved made for a really good event. The choir, the band, I mean, everybody just came together. It's someone, I think the mayor made a comment that, you know, it's 22 years ago, and there's some people that were in that room that night that weren't alive when that happened. So it's important that we keep this alive and we keep it out in the forefront so that we never forget. And we all see the posters and all, but, you know, at some point in time, it's one of those events, you know, we all know where you were when Kennedy was, well, I don't remember because I was this big, but 9/11 was that type of event where everybody who was alive that time and old enough to understand what was going on, you know where you were. You knew exactly where you were because there was a steep fear of unknowing what was happening next. So I hope we continue to do this. It's a great event, along with a long line of great events in this town. I'd just like to make a personal comment to Mr. Link. I want to thank you for the advice, but I think I'm going to keep on the path that I am, and I certainly don't take your comments personal because we all know it's political, right? Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Cheek.
I have nothing to report.
So I just want to kind of make a response back to Mrs. Link here. I don't think it was knee-jerk reaction. If you look at New York City, where they were inundated, they couldn't handle it. That's why we were put in the position. We weren't put in the position. That's why the federal government was looking at ways to ease the pain that some of these cities were dealing with unfortunately these masses of people looking for a better home. So maybe the reaction of Atlantic County and their municipalities brought attention to it and made the federal government rethink things. Maybe not. Who knows? I don't know. All I know is I think the federal government is thinking a little bit harder about what to do with these people and how to treat the situation. Hopefully, all of these people seeking a better life are able to find that better life. And of course, I hope, Americans are going to help them the best they can. Moving on from that, echo what Dr. Witherspoon and Mr. Shanker said about Art in the Park. It was fabulous. Historical Commission did a great job. Seeing all those volunteers running around doing what they, Cheryl Fetty and John Kurtz, it's just running around getting things done. and putting on a great show. And the weather was great. It was fantastic. I snuck out to go to the Oakcrest soccer game on the brand new fields down there. And so I snuck away and caught the second half. Oakcrest won, I believe it was 7-2, because I left real quick to come back down to Art in the Park. So, but if you get a chance, go check out a game at Oakcrest, whether it's a football game or a soccer game. The fields look fantastic. So happy for them. I know they're excited about it. Go down and support the Oakcrest Falcons in any way that you can. And yeah, 9/11, bringing it indoors. Last year, I believe it was canceled altogether because of the weather. So very happy that we were able to bring it here. I know Dr. Zito at school, he offered up the multi-purpose room for us if needed, but we brought it down here. The music was great. The band, the choir did a really, really nice job. And to sit here in a smaller area, and you can see all the volunteer firefighters back there, the police officers that line that side of the building, of the room, really made you, think. And those that can remember what happened that day. So we never want to forget about that. And I'm sorry, I really don't know what's on the schedule coming up. Whether it's, I know we got October is, what's in the park in October, Denise? Fall Fest.
Fall Festival.
October 14th, thank you.
It's
October 14th, Fall Fest, and there'll be another meeting before all the other stuff comes up. Tree lighting, Dickens of a Holiday, all that stuff is coming up, so keep that on your radar and support local. And that's really it for me. Reagan, I'll see you later. Maddie, I miss you, I love you, and I hope to see you soon. And we will open up for public comment.
May I just make one comment? The Fall Festival is put on by the Merchants Association. So if you want to have a section there, you have to reply to the Mays Landing Merchants Association.
And I'm sure that's on their website.
Yeah. Well, if you go to it.
Bruce, I see you're standing up waiting.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, congratulations to Brett. I'm sure you'll do a great job as you have in the past. I couldn't help, on the topic of the cannabis ordinance and redevelopment process, one thing that struck me was when Mr. Malley, and I think there's some questions asked about once a applicant receives endorsement from the township, it sounds from what he said, you can't go back, okay? I think I understood that correctly. But that's well before some of these stop signs. And it's also well before an escrow account is established that our township professionals can take a look at the plan. So, given the fact that cannabis is a permitted use in these districts, the township gives an endorsement to go ahead with the process and start spending money. From what I hear, it's difficult to pull that back. Yet, if you look at the process, for instance, 5B, is cannabis plan acceptable? No. It doesn't ask for reasons, okay? But if you feel, regardless of what your reasons are, you say no, but it's a little bit contradictory to what Mr. Malley said. So that's something I think you need to address, because before there's an escrow, it seems that process is well along the way before you get any engineering, planning, or any of these other things. I don't have a copy of the amended ordinance yet. I'm sure it'll be available soon. But I still think, first of all, I appreciate the fact that you are amending this and taking a deep look at it. It is appreciated. But I still find that it's troubling that any cannabis will be approved or built in the industrial park. I know that, from what I understand, once the process has been, it's forwarded, the ones that are already in process are exempt. I think you should try harder with the state, based on public sentiment and even your own reservations, to see if what we agree to can be reversed. So just because you endorse something originally doesn't necessarily, anything could be changed. If you give them a good reason, the state, I think they should be open to reconsideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to, give you guys an update from the school board perspective. We opened our schools, obviously. You guys all know that.
State your name, please.
What's that?
State your name, please.
Dr. Nelson. I wanted to let you know that we had our back-to-school nights for Hess last week. This week we have Davies Middle School tomorrow, and then Shaner, I believe it's on Thursday. We also have our next Board of Ed meeting on Wednesday. As well as today, we received, we took some pictures with Atlantic Care, but more specifically, we are going to do a press release stating our schools at Davies will be aligning with Atlantic Care and starting up a biomed unit, which will teach the kids first aid, CPR, and basic healthcare type of items. Along with that, the Atlantic Care donated quite a few pieces of equipment that will help us with that. And then the idea is that we will then push those kids towards Oakcrest, where they'll get more additional training from Atlantic Care, which will be the same program. So the Atlantic Care representatives and the directors there will see the kids not from Davies, but also through Oakcrest. And then at the end of that, they will present them with scholarships and allow them, hire them directly from Oakcrest, and then allow them to go onto the college, but pay their way through college with a promise that they'll come and work at Atlantic Care. So we're starting now from the Davies, selecting kids that will naturally gravitate towards this, and throughout their Davies in high school, they will meet with the same Atlantic Care representatives, and then be accumulative on their training from the CPR first aid at the first introduction all the way up through. I think they're going to try to do like EMT type training at the higher levels, and then that way they can go right into whatever occupational therapy or whatever the Atlantic Care wants to streamline them into. So it's allowing us to boast the idea that we're trying to get more kids to go to Oakcrest versus being a default choice because they can't get into one of the other schools for whatever reason. So we're trying to reinforce that pipeline, and also it allows us to identify some of these kids early on that maybe needed some additional help and maybe aren't the traditional college-bound students that maybe don't know what they want to do, but trying to just get them to feel out more stuff. With that also, we're able to, with grants, we're able to supply 100% of our kids with all the pencils, pens, markers, so there was no shopping list for any of our parents this year. The school provided 100% of all those,
Wow.
everything including backpacks.
Good.
Well, other than you can't carry a backpack in school, but beyond that, we were able to supply everything that they needed. So, and that's about it from the school board. And then from personally, I wanted to thank you guys for representing my interests when it came down to bringing in refugees into our backyard. And even though potentially it was knee-jerk, it was something that I felt strong about, and you guys did your job. I represent us accordingly, at least from the people that I've elected through my votes. So I want to say thank you for that.
Thank you. That's great news.
Yeah.
Speaking of the licenses, even 14 is too high.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
That should be reduced down to 5.
Disagree.
Should be reduced down to 5.
Unfortunately, we can't do that.
Bless you.
Why not?
Because the state requires us, since we okayed all 6 types of licenses, we have to allow at least 6.
That'll change once Jack gets in office. I met the man twice, and I'm impressed with him.
You never know, Jim.
We shall see.
Yeah.
I hear you. Thank you, Jim.
In fact, I would like to see it reduced down to 0, because cannabis was I voted against it when it was on the ballot as a state referendum. I voted against it. So we should have 0 licenses. We shouldn't have it at all. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay. I agree.
You guys are dragging your feet. Anybody else?
Make a motion to close the public portion?
Hear a motion?
Second.
Hear a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Closed public portion. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second.
So moved. We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Oh.
Adjourned.
You heard.